It's obvious to many of us that the sport of Formula One is trying to either force Lewis Hamilton out of the sport or do everything within its power to ensure that any future success is limited. Now, this example this weekend is an example that we can replicate so many times since 2021 inclusive, where they robbed him of his valid eighth World Championship by systematically fixing the Grand Prix in a way that most people don't even understand. Okay, in a way, I'll explain it on this channel, I'll go through each of the elements. Most people will still fall for the narrative of it just being Michael Massey being under pressure and making a mistake. That's not true. Not true in any way. Everybody was in on it. Martin Brundle, David Croft were lying about the rules of the sport. Every team just went along with the rule break. None of them contested it. None of them even called it out on the radio messages. They just accepted it. You're not even allowed to resume racing with lapped cars in situ, and they just went with it. That's just not okay. F1 TV just played a narrative that would condition people and convince people that it was going to happen that way. That's just not authentic. And the FIA, this so-called sports governing body, which are entirely corrupt, both fixed the original outcome, they then cemented that outcome in the steward's appeal, and they further cemented that outcome with this so-called review into the situation, where they didn't alter anything, which they should have done. They should have identified the things that were wrong, identified the things that were result changing, and therefore return them to what they should have been accordingly, rather than just went, oh yeah, this was just what it was. Oh, we'll learn from that. It's all a contrivance, and we know that. Those of you that have seen the content of this channel, you know that, and there is more to come. As I keep saying, there is more to come. When we come to Grand Prix weekends, though, people go searching for content that relates to the Grand Prix that's on that weekend. So I'm picking up on what is actually going on at this Dutch Grand Prix, because there's some examples here which are clear examples of what Lewis Hamilton is up against. Now, in the aftermath of Abu Dhabi 2021, there was initial outrage by fans. The initial feeling was that this is outrageous, it needs to be corrected. But then after a period of time, many people have taken the attitude, oh, Lewis has moved on, we should move on too. Lewis has had to move on the grounds that nobody stood alongside him, nobody fought for him. His own team capitulated. His own team struck a deal to ensure that they got the $177 million for winning the Constructors' title that year, and basically sold out. Sold out so that Lewis wasn't an 8-time world champion. That's the truth of the situation. And so they didn't go out to fight for him. The fact that he was systematically cheated out of a valid accomplishment, which no sportsman should ever be in any sport around the world. And I say sportsman, any sports person. Nobody should be cheated out of a sporting accomplishment. Sport should be a beacon. Sport should be there as an example to set to kids, to show people this is what you strive for. Okay, this is what you can accomplish. These are the parameters that everybody has to compete with under, and the best will be the person that works hard, that dedicates their time, their energy, their effort into trying to outperform everybody else, but you're all performing under the same conditions, and you try to extract the best from yourself and overcome your opponents. And if you do, then that is a great accomplishment. That's a great achievement, and you should be proud of that. But if you don't, you should value what your opponent has achieved. You should recognise that somebody else has done it better than you. And the sportsmanship element of this is to shake them by the hand and congratulate them on their performance. on the fact that they've done equal dedication to yourself and managed to outdo you. And providing that it's done under the rules and regulations of the sport, that's how it should be. And through that, you build up friendships, you build up respect, you gain self-respect. There's so many benefits of valid sport, so many things that then translate to true values in life. But we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that in the sport of Formula One. We're seeing this bastardized show, a contrivance, which is just there for money making. It's a money making machine that Liberty Media purchased. What was it, 4 billion that they paid Bernie Ecclestone for it, and all they want to do is make money with it, and they've made money by turning it into a pantomime show, fixing outcomes, creating heroes and villains, creating tribalism within the fan base, creating hatred, putting people against each other, starting warfare effectively. Now that sounds extreme. I realise that when you use that sort of terminology, people think that's extreme. There was never this amount of tribalism and hatred in the sport of Formula One in the past. Yes, we've had rivalries of drivers, but people could go to a Formula One circuit and there would not be the level of hatred that exists between fans of Formula One. Now, obviously, we have social media these days, and we have this forum whereby you've got these toxic individuals that they get off on trying to bait people, trying to goad people. They get off on having a little keyboard argument. They must sit in their bedrooms, in their underpants, and literally go onto the internet to try to incite people, because clearly that's the way their minds work. They look to try to. We have people on this channel that they'll try and make a response to everybody's comment in the hope that somebody will respond to them and they can get into an argument with them. That's the nature of these people. Formula One has fed on that. Formula One knows this dynamic. Liberty Media are the experts of these types of interactions because they've done their market research. Okay, this is their market. They know what they're doing and they know they are inciting that type of conduct. But the reason that they do it is that it makes them money. The more social media interactions, the sport becomes the trending thing that's going on in the world. And with that space becomes more valuable because that's where people are interacting and that's where brands want to be advertising their wares because that's where they're going to be seen. And all of that makes Liberty Media money and the sport of Formula One money. F1 as a brand becomes more valuable. All of the teams become more valuable because all of their sponsors, all of the brands that are associated with those teams get more exposure. Hence, that's better for them. The teams can charge them more money because it's more valuable. They're getting a much bigger audience for the exposure of the brand. The FIA gets a cut of whatever revenue this whole show makes. So they then apply their regulations in a manner dictated by the orchestrators of the show. And what they're doing, they are systematically trying to impact this man's career. Now, he only might have, 2, 3, 4 seasons left in the sport? Who knows? Who knows? But ever since 2021, his career has been impacted by narrative, by this show. Now, any chance of future success is going to be hindered by the fact that this is what he is continually up against. The boosting of one guy to try and gift him every accomplishment, gift him every record that this sport has to offer. They are trying to facilitate making that happen at the expense of this guy. Now, those of you that are honest, Those of you that are seeing things for what they truly are, you'll acknowledge that. Now, obviously, we have the strap-on fanboy that will jump in the comment section and try to discredit what's being said. They'll try to undermine it and try to come up with comments in the comment section, because they know the dynamics as well, that rather than watch content, some people will click onto content for a few seconds, read a few comments, and if the comments rubbish the content, then people switch off from the content rather than watch it for themselves. This is the small-minded dynamics that we have these days. Unless somebody's imagination is caught within a few seconds, they want to move on to the next thing. All known dynamics, hence trolls are paid for, to try to come to channels, to undermine them, to discredit them, to try to ensure that the truth that's being exposed by them channels is suppressed. It is all part of the dynamics. So what I'm going to go through in this video is the Lewis Hamilton interview today after what has took place, and compare that also with what is going on in the sport. Now, this interview is off the back of the qualifying performance where he's qualified 12th. He subsequently had a 3-place grid penalty. Now, the 12th qualifying position, I think Albon got disqualified for his car being, there was an infringement with his car, an infringement for the technical regulations. So that would have moved Hamilton up a place to 11th with Albon's disqualification. But then Hamilton was hit with the 3-place grid penalty for supposedly impeding Perez. So Hamilton now will start the Grand Prix from 14th position. Hamilton was not the only person to make an infringement this weekend. So I'm going to go through the incidents, I'm going to go through the things that are being said, and I'm going to go through what the FIA do. Who gets penalised all the time? Who rarely gets penalised? And we all know where this is going to go. But this is the evidence. This is it actually taking place. It couldn't be any more blatant. It could not. Well, it could be more blatant, but this is as blatant as it gets. They're doing it in front of our face, and they're sticking 2 fingers up at all of us, and they're saying, ha ha ha, this is what we're going to do, and there is nothing you can do about it. And this is what they're doing to Lewis Hamilton. They're doing it to him, they're laughing at him, and they're saying there is nothing you can do about it. And what has he got left at his disposal? All he can try to do is do what he's capable of, and on some occasions he'll be able to overcome. But overall, he is swimming against the tide. He's not going to be able to overcome the systematic, what's the word I'm looking for? It's entire corruption, but it's also the systematic boosting of Max Verstappen to present Max Verstappen as being the person that's going to surpass everything that this man has ever accomplished within the sport of Formula One. And it's truly disgusting. It is truly disgusting. Any human being, regardless of your skin colour, regardless of your nationality, regardless of your faith, regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexuality, anybody who's got any decency can see what's going on. And it is truly disgusting. So I'm going to come back to this interview and go to, firstly, a couple of clips. So this is the onboards for the supposed infringement by Hamilton, impeding. So let's have a quick look.
At any stage on these laps, I wonder if
Riding on board with Perez.
this is the impeding here. We're on board with Sergio Perez.
So Hamilton is keeping really wide around this corner. Where else can he go? He can see that Perez is coming up behind him, and Perez will want the inside line around this corner. Where can Hamilton go?
Hamilton turns in,
and Perez is the one that turns in and has the tight line around the corner. Well, Hamilton's keeping as wide as he can be. Where is the impeding?
Did that compromise Sergio Perez?
What the f is this idiot doing?
And so we have a Red Bull driver, vilify him, okay? Get on his radio, vilify Hamilton. So we can go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix where Max Verstappen was clearly at fault for colliding with Lewis Hamilton. What did Lewis do? Lewis took away the blame from Verstappen. Lewis said, look, let's just call that one a racing incident. What does Perez do? What the F is he doing?
He feels he did.
This idiot 8-time, 7-time.
You got that right the first time, Brundle. He is, yes, not an idiot, but indeed an 8-time world champion.
This idiot 8-time, 7-time world champion. 8, some people say.
Some people say, and then you try and laugh it off. You two are corrupt. Martin Brundle, David Croft, you narrated the fix. You're not going to get away with it. You thought that the world would move on. You thought that you could dupe people. You thought that people wouldn't keep talking about this. You're going to have to try and backpedal. You occasionally do try and backpedal. You're not going to get away with this.
But he was desperately trying to get out of the way.
That's well out of his way.
Idiot 8-time, 7-time world champion. 8, some people say. But he was desperately trying.
You keep laughing, laughing boy Crofty. You keep laughing. You won't get away with this.
Trying to get out of the way.
That's well out of his way.
Yeah, no sweat.
At any stage on these laps, I wonder if this is the impeding here. We're on board with Sergio Perez. Hamilton turns in, and did that compromise Sergio Perez?
Well, where could Hamilton go?
What the f is this idiot doing?
Perez, where has he got to go? What were you doing in Abu Dhabi, Perez? Because up until Abu Dhabi 2021, I had never seen a racer block somebody off in the way that you did. And that got described as amazing defensive driving. I'd not seen that in the sport before.
I think he feels he did.
This idiot 8-time, 7-time world champion. 8, some people say. But he was desperately trying to get out of the way.
That's well out of his way.
So, with that being the case, we'll look at a couple of other clips as well. FP3, what's going on here?
Behind Lewis Hamilton.
Verstappen getting very close to the white line there, wasn't he, on the pit lane exit, which the stewards are always having a look at. They treat that white line like it's a concrete wall. Basically, you are not allowed to go over that one. But he was having a bit of a look. And interestingly, the two Haas cars they swapped over. Did he actually overtake a car?
So Verstappen's overtaken a car in the fast lane of the pit lane.
Which you are allowed to do.
You are allowed.
Oh, you are allowed to do that, are you, lads? Didn't think you were. I think you've got to filter in. That's not filtering in, that's overtaking.
So he's seen a gap in front of him. And does he go around the outside and off the line?
Yes,
the
he
line?
does. Oh, yes, he does.
Oh, he does.
Oh, he does, doesn't he?
You're not allowed to do that.
Absolutely right, Crofty.
I don't think you're allowed to touch the line, let alone go over it.
Yeah, like I say, they treat it like a concrete wall. So, where we see sometimes
So that's
cars...
okay, getting...
Oh, that's okay, overtaking. When you're in that fast lane of the pit lane. No, that's not really okay.
Past Piastri. But the next bit...
We might see a better angle there. And I'm sure this is why we're seeing replays here. Yeah, that left rear was definitely over the white line.
So that's the infringement that Max Verstappen makes. This is the Sky Sports F1 YouTube channel. So these are the videos that are available on there, and they are not showing us the replay of Max Verstappen's infringement on there, and they're not showing it on their shorts either. Had to look elsewhere on the internet to search for them. And this is then what Lewis Hamilton has to say when he's interviewed.
Lewis, I know you'd be disappointed. Just talk me through that for you. How was it out there, and what happened?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking session. But you know, these things happen. I mean, what can I say? It's done now. Definitely doesn't feel good. But
is he a downtrodden, demoralised man? Is that because what is being done to him? Being done to him by the sport? Being done to him by what is supposed to be his own team? Supposed to be a team of people that have got his back, that are doing everything within their power to try and contribute to success as a team, where he's the person that goes and delivers that for them, for the team, because he's the person best positioned to do that, the one with the talent to be able to bring it home, to reward them for their efforts. But he's not getting that backup, is he? He's not getting any of that. He's getting a governing body that's just going to hit him time and time and time again. Going to facilitate his opponent, gifting his opponent every advantage, every leeway possible. And even this man's own team doesn't go out to bat for him.
yeah, it always kind of went. It all went badly from the moment that the situation with Perez happened, and I did my best to get out of the way. I was as far to the left as possible, but just timing was bad.
A summons has just come through for that right now for the stewards. What I want to move on to was actually, did that put you off then on your next lap? Because when Ants had a look at it, the sky pad, it seemed that you got a snap of.
Well, most of us could not conduct ourselves in the way that Lewis does in this regard. I for sure couldn't. I would be calling out exactly what was going on. But then people wouldn't like me for that. They wouldn't like it when somebody is calling out the bullshit that this man is having to deal with. The absolute bullshit that this man is having to deal with. But then if he did call it out, they'd penalise him more. They'd ban him from races. That's what they've introduced the legislation for, isn't it? Oh, we're going to introduce this rule, this regulation to shut you down even more.
Oversteer here, and then there was understeer there, and it just it looked like the car wasn't hooking up for you.
It's a domino effect probably from that moment. It just went from bad to worse. So,
Better luck tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, hopefully by behaving the way he does, will maintain his power to still have a huge influence on people, because ultimately that is the power that Lewis Hamilton has. The world truly knows the difference between a man such as Lewis Hamilton and a so-called man, that being Max Verstappen. And the good people of the world know who a good role model is, know who a good person is, and know who a total turd is. So ultimately, good will prevail. But when it comes to the history books, when it comes to setting records for being the greatest in the sport, Lewis is having his chances artificially impacted by systematic corruption. That's disgusting. A man's career should not be impacted in that way. So that in generations' time, when people do not know what Lewis Hamilton has had to go through, and all they do is look at the history books, they look at Wikipedia, and all it will have is the statistics, they won't realise what Lewis Hamilton is having to endure at this phase of his career from 2021 onwards, what he's had to endure in this so-called sport. And it is truly disgusting. So let's go through what the FIA are doing. Now, you can all do this. You can all go onto the FIA website, and you can then dig out all of the documentation from all of the Grand Prix. It will come up with all the stewards' decisions for all of the alleged infringements and how they dealt with them. And I've just picked out a few just as examples to give you. There are more than double this that I could use. There's probably 3 to 4 times as many as these I can use. This is just a selection. So I've got this on the Dutch Grand Prix for this weekend at the moment. But let's just go through a few different documents and let's compare and contrast. So this one, Miami Grand Prix 2024, this year, the Miami Grand Prix. What's going on here? Zhou, okay, in qualifying, car 24 crossed the white line at pit exit. So Max Verstappen in FP3 crossed that line. Zhou did it in qualifying in Miami and got a reprimand. This is the driver's first reprimand of the season, and that's what the stewards did. The stewards were those people there. Okay? So we'll see who pops up in the stewards list as we go through these. They're all kissing it. Okay? They're all doing the I have served, I will be of service. So those of you that think, well, Johnny Herbert, he was one of the good guys after Abu Dhabi 2021, you're seeing what Johnny Herbert is doing now. Johnny Herbert is just complying with the narrative to get his pay packet. We all have to get paid, but we can choose what we do with our lives in order to get that income that we need to live. And those of us with morals and those of us with integrity will walk away from doing the things that we know aren't right. Next one. Sergio Perez. Unnecessarily impeding car 16, so that would be Charles Leclerc in turn 13. This was in practice 2, and this was at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix this year, 2024. Decision, no further action. So Perez is unnecessarily impeding. Now, was Hamilton necessarily impeding or unnecessarily impeding? Hamilton, well, he'd done what he could do. He'd gone to the outside of the track to leave as much space as possible. But Hamilton himself was on the track and he still had to be going around that track. What are you going to do? Come to an emergency stop on track just so until he gets by you? Well, that's probably even more dangerous. Because then you're a sitting duck for the next car that arrives on the scene. So Hamilton did his best to be out of the way. And Perez is unnecessarily impeding. Red Bull, no further action. Next one, this year's Canadian Grand Prix. What's going on here? Max Verstappen this time. What's going on? Pit lane incident. No further action. And this was when filtering into the fast lane, I believe. No further action. It's Max, isn't it? Of course, there's no further action. And who decides there's no further action for Max? Oh, that would be Felix Holter, corrupt steward from Abu Dhabi 2021. The Great White Hope himself, Derek Warwick, corrupt steward from 2021 Abu Dhabi. And them two guys there. Next one. Austrian Grand Prix. Nico Hulkenberg. What did Nico do wrong? Pit lane incident, right? Was this where he was again? Entering the fast lane. No suitable gap to blend in. Well, Verstappen had clearly blended into the fast lane. And then he jumped out of the fast lane, went around the car in front of him and back into the fast lane. That's overtaking in the pit lane. That's not okay. And what did he get? Hulkenberg got a team reprimand. We'll see what the FIA do to Verstappen in the Dutch Grand Prix weekend this weekend shortly. Next one, Austrian Grand Prix. What's going on here? Oh, it's Lewis Hamilton in the race. He crossed the white line at pit entry, so he gets a 5-second time penalty. Okay, that's Lewis Hamilton. So there's an alleged infringement, so therefore there's a penalty. That's always what happens with him. Alex Albon, pit lane, crossing the white line there. What happened during the race? 5-second penalty for Alex Albon for committing that infringement. What's the next one? Australian Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly in qualifying crossed the yellow pit line at exit. So the same offence of Verstappen that Verstappen committed in FP3, a reprimand. So the two guys that have crossed that pit lane on exit, they've got reprimands. Okay? Let's see if Max gets a reprimand at the Dutch Grand Prix. Well, have a look. There's a few more documents. What's this one? Is that the same one? This is document 51. I might have just dragged this document up twice. Is this the is this the decision, or is what have I done there? That was during qualifying. He gets a reprimand. This was during the race then. So, car 10 crossed the yellow pit exit line during the race, and he gets a 5-second penalty. 5 seconds added to the elapsed time. 2024 Dutch Grand Prix provisional starting grid. So, now we're at the Dutch Grand Prix, and we've got Felix Holter, the corrupt Abu Dhabi steward, one of three, because Gary Connolly, Derek Warwick were the other two. The other one was the local steward, so it's highly likely that he's just there as a token gesture, and it's the other three stewards that are really calling the shots. I don't know the exact dynamics of this, but that is what is typically happened. One of those four stewards is usually a local steward in terms of from that country or provided by that circuit. All right, don't know exactly how that works, but it's three of them are basically selected by the FIA. So the starting grid for the Dutch Grand Prix, let's have a look. So we go down to this, and although we know that Hamilton qualified in 12th, he's now in 14th. As I say, Albon got disqualified, and therefore that's why Hamilton would have been boosted to 11th, but then gets a three-place grid penalty. Car 44, three-place grid penalty, impeding another driver. Steward's document number 38. So let's have a look at Steward's document number 38. So this is the Dutch Grand Prix. This is the FIA webpage, and we'll scroll down. We've got document 43, 42, 41, 40, 39, 37. Document 39, document 37. And they're telling us that car 44 has got a three-place grid penalty for impeding another driver, and that's Steward's document 38, but it's not published on their website. Thanks for that, the FIA. So what are the other two tabs I've got up here, which are these PDFs of previous offences? So Austrian Grand Prix, this was Max Verstappen at the Austrian Grand Prix. Alleged unsafe release of car, I used this one in the last video. That was an alleged unsafe release. You know, we know that if you are found guilty of an unsafe release for impeding the car in the pit lane, you get a 5-second penalty. No further action required for Max, and a validation instead. However, Article 34.14 specifies a car is considered to be released in an unsafe manner if it could endanger pit lane personnel or another driver. This was not the case. So they make an excuse up for Max, don't they? Whenever Max is guilty of an infringement, I mean, it's his team that are sending him out there, but the driver's always the one that gets the 5 seconds. So Red Bull released him, impeding Norris's path, making Norris have to brake. But the FIA make up the excuses for him. And what's this one? This one's at the Austrian Grand Prix. And this is Lewis Hamilton. Unsafe release for Lewis Hamilton. And the decision is that Mercedes are fined €5,000 because it's Mercedes' fault for releasing Lewis Hamilton in an unsafe manner in qualifying. So Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes are found guilty. They found to have infringed. Max Verstappen is found no further action required because we don't think that that's actually an infringement according to the regulations. Now, when we go back to the FIA webpage and we look at the incited infringements for this Grand Prix, what you have is the different documents and what they're about. So you've got summons for breaches, and then they have decisions, legality issues with car 23, provisional car qualifying classification, decisions, summons for. So they summon Perez and Hamilton for allegedly the impeding of car 11 by car 44, but we haven't got document 38, which would say infringement car 44. That's not appearing on their webpage at the moment. And then what we get here is infringement, unsafe release, and these are during the practice sessions. Car 23, unsafe release, P2 classification, alleged unsafe release, alleged unsafe release. Where are any of these summons for car number 1 for having crossed the white line on pit lane exit, for having overtaken, for going out of the fast lane on the pit lane, overtaking it and then filtering back into that fast lane for car 1? Nothing to see here. So we have this puppet, an absolute puppet of a supposed governing body that are boosting Max Verstappen, boosting Red Bull. Every decision goes Red Bull's way. Every decision goes Max Verstappen's way. They are facilitating the drama, facilitating the narrative, creating the conflict, creating the dynamic that exists within social media. And yet, they put up the hashtag United against online abuse. You're the ones that are causing it. You are the ones who are causing it. You and everybody else that peddles that corrupt narrative that is being controlled, most likely by Liberty Media, facilitated by the governing body's decision making, not called out by everybody else because they're all making money. Every other team can see exactly what is going on, see who is getting penalised, see who's getting away with everything, and nobody does anything. They just take the money. Every form of media is doing the same. They're just parroting the narrative for clicks and getting the income. That's how this disgusting, corrupt regime works. And not only does it happen in Formula One, it happens in your country as well. I live in the UK. That sort of thing has gone on in my country for at least the last 14 years of Tory government, and no doubt it will happen under this Labour government as well, because the true reality of the situation is what controls the decisions in your country is not your government. It is the hugely wealthy businesses which then influence and lobby the governments to make policies which benefit them and not you. They benefit the things that make money, not the people of the country. The people just pay the price, enabling these rich multinational companies to essentially rape the population of the country for as much as possible to make them money. And the governments facilitate that through lack of legislating against it, enabling it, and corrupt individuals within government will be making money out of it. And they will tell you that this is normal. There's nothing that you can do about it. Then checks and measures are supposed to exist. We are supposed to have anti-corruption bodies which supposedly investigate fraud, punish fraud, punish money laundering, punish improper practices. It's clearly not going on. Whilst money is being made, everything is turned a blind eye to. It is truly disgusting. And the morals and the values that are being put forward to society are essentially stuff everybody else, stuff decency, stuff ethics, stuff adhering to the rules. Just live your best life. Get what you can get. As long as you can get away with it, it doesn't matter. And if everybody lives by those values and then standards, this society, this global society, is going to descend into chaos. And when it does, there'll be those at the top that will sit there and they will watch it burn. And they will be making money out of it. And the people that will be affected will be the likes of you and me. We will be encouraged to conflict. We will be the ones that will be fighting each other. We'll be the ones that are incited to fight each other. That's what the media will do. The media will tell us who our enemy is, tell us the people who are making our lives worse than what they should be. Oh, it's them. Point the finger at them. They're the people that are impacting your life. It's these people that are coming across the channel on boats. They're the people that mean you now have to wait 12 hours if you've got a problem and need hospital treatment. It's not the government of the last 14 years that have not invested in the NHS, tried to deprive it of its lifeblood, created a society where the jobs where it requires people with compassion, with care, well, it starves them of being able to live properly by increasing the cost of living, not increasing wages in accordance with cost of living, encouraging people to go for jobs where all they care about is maximising their income rather than the true value of what role they're performing within society. And we become a society of the haves and the have-nots. And if it's working for you, you'll fight for it. You'll fight to defend it. Until that time comes in your life when you need one of those essential services and you realise that they're all gone and society has just descended. It's not a good place. It's not a good place. And we need to really get a grip of what are the important values within society. We really do. Unfortunately, Formula One, the majority of the fans that are watching in the sport and tuning into Formula One social media, this will be too deep and too heavy for them. And obviously, we will get the detractors that come to this channel, which will want to think that they can detract and ridicule what is being said here. But they really don't know the impact that they're having, and they don't know the bigger implications of what is taking place in this world. We need to overcome it. There needs to be change, and ultimately, that's what I will seek to do. That is what I will seek to do, and that is what I will promise you all. Thank you for your time. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe and share the content. Hopefully we can wake more people up to what is truly going on and use this example of Formula One to make positive changes. I think that that's what Lewis Hamilton was ultimately aiming to achieve with his conduct in those seasons where he did try to raise awareness for injustices within this world. In doing so, offended people because they thought he was standing for Black Lives Matter, but the reality of that should mean that we all matter, and actually that is social injustice. But people got offended by that. Standing up for the rights of LGBTQ, people get offended by that as well. When the reality is, it shouldn't matter what your sexuality is, shouldn't matter what your gender is. We all are entitled to have human rights and all need to be treated fairly. Okay? A bit of equality within society, it's not a bad thing. I think that's what Lewis Hamilton was seeking to raise awareness of. And yet, some people, they get offended by that. They think that that group of people is their enemy. That's the group of people that is detracting from their quality of life. It's not these multinationals that are enabled to increase the cost of living for you, to maximize what they can charge you for their essential product that you need in life, so that they are all billionaires and you're struggling to heat your home in the winter, struggling to afford your weekly shop, struggling to afford to put fuel in your car to get you to and from work. But they're doing all right out of it. They're doing all right. United against online abuse. The people that cause this dynamic. Thanks for your time.